squeeze it into a rocket ship. Go for it, full throttle. These are actually fireproof.
This is 1973, 911 Carrera RS.
It's a very, very simple machine. It will run in the face of adversity.
Welcome to Fox in the Fast Lane. I'm Allison Morris. Tonight we're going all automotive, whether it's learning how to drive a race car or checking out a world-class collection of motorcycles. Buckle up, because this half hour is gonna fly by. We begin here at Collector Cars Showcase in Oyster Bay on Long Island. A relatively new but unbelievably awesome collection of cars and memorabilia steeped in Long Island's rich car-loving tradition. Ferrari, Porsche, and a classic Corvette. If you're looking for rare, world-class cars on Long Island, look no further than Collector Cars Showcase in Oyster Bay. David Jacobson's tribute to all things automotive.
I truly fell in love with the history of the story about Porsche, and not just Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, American cars, the Corvettes, and so forth. So I truly fell in love with the story, and so that led me to wanting to explore more about the Petroliana aspect of it, which is the oil and gas collectibles. This stuff is really has stories to tell. I mean, every one of these pumps, gas pump signs, finding them, meeting the people who own them is just really fascinating to me. When people come in here, most people look at the cars first, but they leave here remembering the signs.
Jacobson fell in love with cars as a child.
I think it was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
And started collecting both cars and a whole lot of signs.
That Packard sign was hanging at a dealership in the late 40s and 50s, and it's beautiful. It's in amazing condition.
Collector Cars showcases Jacobson's way of sharing his treasures with the world.
My basement was packed. My garage was packed. It was a very big day in my wife's life when I opened this place and I emptied all the stuff out of there.
Jacobson bought the building in 2013 and spent 2 years bringing his vision to life, packing the 18,000 square foot space on Route 106 with incredible finds.
We found the 1947 Favor motorbike. This is an amazing piece of French craftsmanship from the mid-40s that was behind a tarp in somebody's garage. BMW actually purchased a refrigerator company called ISO, which is an Italian refrigerator company, and they turned the refrigerator into a car.
So that's a drivable, basically, refrigerator.
This is a drivable refrigerator, and it is not fun to drive. This was the car that Urkel drove, if you remember.
Collector Cars Showcase hosts everything from comedy shows to charity events, and the exhibits rotate. Right now, Jacobson is featuring 60 years of Porsche, his personal favorite.
We really have a real world-class collection of Porsches. This is 1973, 911 Carrera RS. This is really what started the racing world. Jerry Seinfeld has, as people know, a very large Porsche collection, and in April there was an auction in Amelia Island in Florida, and this was one of the cars that he sold there. So we're happy to have it. It's one of 30 993 RSRs, very, very special. It's a purpose-built Porsche race car from the factory.
Street driving?
This is not street legal. This yellow one is a 993 RS. They take the back seats out, they lighten the weight, never sold in the U.S. Porsche-made tractors, even Porsche enthusiasts didn't realize that. This is a 1960, what's called a Porsche Diesel Junior.
They're not the only car company that used to be in the tractor business.
Lamborghini.
Yes.
The visceral driving experience of this car is really unmatched. The refinement for a 1960s automobile, the comfort, the handling, the simplicity.
This seems to me, on a summer, sunny day on Long Island, that this is what you should be driving out to, like, Sag Harbor or wherever you're going.
And it's a mood changer. This is my favorite car. Listen, you know, sometimes when you build them yourself, you do them exactly the way you want them.
David and his team rebuilt this 1974 lightweight six-cylinder air-cooled G-program Porsche, giving it modern touches.
We call it vintage performance driven.
The only way to test that out, take it for a drive.
Sound of this one's great. Just wanted to explain the way this car feels.
Oh yes, it's like racing. This is awesome. Anyone who lives lives in this area on Long Island will remember the abandoned kitchen cabinet building this once was. What David has done with the space is truly amazing. And he's right, the cars are cool, but people really leave thinking about the signs. From here on Long Island, we take you further up north in New York to Monticello Motor Club, where speed is your ticket in. Drive your own fast car or take one of their Porsches out on the racetrack for an adrenaline fix. Dan Bowens and I spent a day on the track learning how to race. Who's faster, you ask? Check it out.
Go for it, full throttle, you got it.
It's a country club for the adrenaline junkie.
Welcome to my race car. This is so cool.
This is about challenging yourself to new limits.
Woo!
Nice.
When you crave velocity and live to accelerate,
It's a high-end country club, but instead of a golf course, we have a 4.1-mile racetrack.
it is a place without speed limits. A place where auto enthusiasts come to play.
And think about the most amazing roller coaster you've ever been on. And now you get to run that roller coaster yourself.
In the Catskills, 90 minutes north of New York City, co-owner Ari Strauss says the Monticello Motor Club is where owners of elite sports cars can harness the power of their vehicles.
Maybe they own a Porsche GT3, a Ferrari 458. They've never driven the car to its full potential. Here you get to do that.
A racing resort run like a luxury club, where a membership will run you $135,000, coming with a range of services from gourmet meals to private lessons and a driving school.
Welcome to Monticello Motor Club. You guys are here for our racing school.
Track manager Chris Duplessis squeezed the 3-day course into about 20 minutes for Allison and I. Who looks faster between the two?
Well, I mean, the hair, I mean, I don't want to bet my money on it. Got more of that racer look.
We'll be driving the Porsche Cayman before the 300 horsepower engine propels one of us to a checkered flag, a safety check.
The emergency fire system, if there is an incident and there is fire.
I have no intention of figuring out whether or not these are actually fireproof. How fast are we going to go?
On this course, not our full course, 110.
110?
Yeah, no big deal. You got it.
Steering wheel feels unbelievable. It's so tight. It's amazing. I've never felt anything like that.
Just be cool.
Yeah, you're a race car
It's
driver.
just a little stroll at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Full throttle, engine revving. The Porsche is precise, even on this rainy afternoon. The key, Chris advises, brake hard into the curves. The car responds, hugging the 90-degree turns at nearly 50 miles per hour. Grip the steering wheel at 10 and 2, but keep the hands loose. Don't forget to breathe, and in the straights, let it fly. Pedal to the floor. Almost instantly powering this super-class vehicle to 75, 80, 90, on the way to 100 miles per hour.
When you hear a race car go by on a track and you're into the sport, the hair stands up on your arms. You actually have a physical reaction to it.
People come up here and end the day saying this was the absolute best day of my entire life.
And then you hang it up?
Hang it up.
Woo! That was sort of fun. That was so cool. It's amazing though. My legs are going to be so tired later. Like you feel it. You're like,
For the first time, that was great. That was really good.
There is nothing like burning rubber on a wet track. We're a little nervous when we first got to Monticello, but once we got behind the wheel of the Porsche, it was all about whipping around the curves. Now imagine all that horsepower and rush on just 2 wheels. Jump on the back of a bike and there's nothing between you and the road. Arthur Chen shows us in this Concert Man's awesome collection of horsepower hogs.
This is a 1950s Buco. I mean, this was an actual police jacket.
When you meet Joe Buzetta in his soft-spoken, deliberate style, you might miss something.
And do you choose your hairstyle based on your hobby as well?
Sure.
You can't have
Short
like
hair.
stuff getting in the way.
Short hair works.
Yeah.
Short hair and a lot of gel afterwards.
But if you listen closely, you'll find Buzetta is essentially the Neil deGrasse Tyson of motorcycles, and his devotion is clear through his collection.
40 bikes, 9 cars.
Now, it sounds like he knew the number right off the bat, doesn't it? But even Joe admits it's hard to keep track of his ever-growing collection.
I just counted that yesterday because I figured you were going to ask.
We probably don't need Joe to figure out why people love motorcycles, the thrill, the speed, the danger, perhaps because his father was a race car driver himself. Joe was just 11 years old when gifted his first motorcycle.
Getting me my first bike definitely started it for me. Initially riding it, the way it feels, you know, the way you get home and you smell like gas, you know, that was all part of it.
And it is all parts he collects now, scouring shows and the internet as if he's on an archaeological dig, the results of which he walked us through, covering decades of history.
Both of these bikes are from the 70s. These are all Ducatis. These first 4 bikes are from the 851, 888 series. These are both 1972s. They called them Widowmakers because they were pretty dangerous.
And with each motorcycle, his mind works like a catalog. So many worth highlighting, like this Moto Guzzi made for cops.
This is a 1973 police bike that's been restored. One of the things was, you know, the special dashboard with all the controls for your lights. They had a quick getaway system. And the way that worked is you had your key switch under here, and then you had this switch which completed the ignition circuit.
And the stunning Paul Smart caught our eye with its blue-green frame.
If you were to take this into the city and just park it and sit in an outdoor cafe, what kind of reaction would you get?
You'd get a crowd. You'd get a crowd.
And that reaction is one of the reasons Buzetta takes on this labor of love, which requires each motorcycle get fired up, maintained, and taken out on a regular basis.
Why is the visor shaped like that?
That's a bubble shield, and that was just typical of that time.
And for the Long Islander, bringing all these pieces together, showing them on his own dime, and inviting others who are addicted to motorcycles to his church of sorts, feeds another reason for his obsession, that of community.
The fun part is the people that you meet. I mean, definitely the people you ride with. I mean, I've garnered about 25 people that have become my good friends that I ride with all the time.
The gift of friendships is one thing he's gotten in return. Motorcycles and riders like Joe share a fundamental characteristic in that they both put themselves out there.
Coming up next, we'll look at the history of driving all the way back to the Model T. And later, we'll check out how those thrilling car chase scenes come to life on the big screen. Welcome back to Fox in the Fast Lane, our half-hour special designed to rev any car lover's engine. Next up, Matt King takes a look at some of the most memorable cars in history and checks out driving in the future.
One sunny day in May, 4 New Jersey men gathered on a leafy street in Cranford to drive 4 vehicles built by the same manufacturer a combined 392 years ago.
People always ask me one question: how did you get the car here? I said, I drove it.
Mike Bevilacqua, Bob Calvano behind him, Joe Henshaw next to Bob, and Jeff Jones in the driver's seat all own Ford Model Ts they show by driving.
It's a very, very simple machine. It'll run in the face of adversity.
Before driving it to this meeting, Bob last started his Woody 2 years ago. Half a century before that, he and Jeff found another T in a farmer's field and bought it for $25.
He pulled the spark plug out with his hand, and he says, he looks down in there, he says, it's full of water.
2 years later, the engine
2 years later, the engine was running. He bought a piston at a flea market for 50 cents. That was 50 years ago. It's still in there.
Between 1909 and 1927, the Ford Motor Company sold 15 million Model Ts, which remained the highest production of any vehicle until the Volkswagen Beetle surpassed it more than 40 years later.
When I was a kid, I used to run on kerosene.
Kerosene, yeah.
Very quiet it runs.
Other companies manufactured other cars before the Ford Motor Company introduced the Model T in 1908 and 1909. Ford manufactured other cars before it sold its first T. But the company's pioneering of the assembly line and that process's ability to remove the man from the manufacturing allowed Ford to sell this motor car for cheaper than any automobile before it.
By the mid-teens, he got the price down so low that anyone could afford to buy a Model T.
Inside the remains of a pie company's oven in downtown Brooklyn, Lenny Schiller keeps 56 classic cars and trucks, which he says all run but might not all stop.
I'm renowned for not liking to drive. I just love tinkering with old cars.
If the T taught every American to drive, Lenny believes the golden age of the automobile dawned a couple of decades later after World War II, when the car companies that survived the war and the Great Depression before it redesigned their fleets so seemingly no two cars on the road looked or ran alike. But after the mid-60s, Lenny observed the end of this era of American automotive innovation, durability, and design.
The American manufacturers started taking their customers for granted, assuming that people would buy a new car every 2 years.
And in 1966, Toyota introduced the Corolla.
You could say that that's the car that really put the kibosh on Detroit.
Smaller cars with better gas mileage and a smaller carbon tire track dominate the car industry's present and the starting line for its future. Henry Ford's dream of a man buying just one car in his lifetime and retrofitting that vehicle himself as he saw fit died with the invention of plastics and the disposable automobiles of today. And in the future, even in this wild giant country the motor car allowed us to tame and pave, vehicle ownership may no longer come standard.
We're studying what kinds of vehicles fit in that world.
Executive Director at the Nissan Future Lab, Dr. Rachel Wynn, oversaw the creation of this new mobility concept vehicle, already on the streets of Europe, but shown here silently motoring along at up to 25 miles per hour on Manhattan's Upper West Side. This 100% electric car might one day fill a need for those commuting short distances in an urban environment.
Wow, look at that. Car comes to me.
The future of driving should change not only what we drive, but who or what drives our vehicles. Mercedes, Tesla, and other manufacturers already offer semi-autonomous cars that seem a lot closer to fully autonomous than company spokesmen admit on the record. Lenny sees the time of sports cars like this 1953 Jaguar XK120 Super Sports Roadster nearing an end. More than 100 years after Ford put the steering wheel on the left side of the car, all but putting railroads out of business and giving every man, woman, and child the freedom to roam, this country with more miles of road than any other looks toward a future where most of us never operate our mode of transit, leaving the machines that drove this nation to the status of superpower dusty and rusting, and rendering the once communal romance of navigating the open roads that connect our land's two shining seas and all its gleaming cities between an experience foreign to those who live here.